Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you a spoiler-free review of Life of Pi by Yann Martel. So without any further ado, let's get into the video. Now before getting into the actual review, this book is the Man Booker Prize winner for 2002 and this is the third book that has been written by Yann Martel. There's a little story behind how he wrote this book. Once Yann Martel wanted to write a story that needs to sell well as well as bring him some laurels. So he comes to India, South India specifically, and he tries to write a novel. But due to that, it doesn't work out well, and the novel doesn't come out. So he plans to come to Pondicherry for a visit, and he comes to Pondicherry. And there one fine day in the morning, he's having coffee in a shop, in a restaurant, we can say, and in that place, he's met by an old man, and they just start talking normally because people tend to speak to foreigners in order to know something about them just due to the curiosity. And the author says that he's a writer and he's been searching for a good story for so long. And this old man named Francis Adirobasami in Pondicherry says that he knows a story that will make him believe in God. The author is a bit confused on hearing this because he thinks that the person, that is Francis Adirobasami, might be a person who's a religious fanatic, and he asks him what the story is. The man says that the story needs to be told by the person who actually experienced it, and says that that person is also living in Canada, and he can meet him and know the details. The author is just intrigued by this single statement, which is that the story will make him believe in God, and he goes and tries to find Mr. Patel in Canada, and he finds him. He calls him and fixes for an appointment. He meets him during various days and hears out his story. He takes down notes and writes this beautiful book, which is a very atmospheric book, and it is a book from a single point of view. And that is actually the story of how this book was written. Now let's get into the actual things about this book. Now, the plot of the book is that we have this little boy named Pi, and he's called Pi, okay? It's the short form of his name. His name is actually Pasin Patel. Since his name is so difficult to pronounce for so many people, he just takes it down short and makes people call him as Pi. And he lives with his family in Pondicherry, and in Pondicherry they have this zoo which they take care of the family as a whole. His father is the sole in charge of the zoo, and they are a very modern family when it comes to thoughts and being not conservative. He's very much dear with his mother, just like any other son would be, and he also has this elder brother named Ravi, who's very much involved in cricket, and he's a good cricketer. Whereas when it comes to Pi, he's a nerd, so he just reads books. He's not that much into playing and stuff. He's not like a normal boy as people want certain children to be, and he's different in every sense. What he faces is a lot of bullying due to his name. His name Pissin is always pronounced as Pissing in the school which he did his middle grade classes, and when he moves to another school, there while he introduces himself, he writes his name on the board and tells that people can call him Pi, and that's how his story begins. The actual story which happens inside the book is not the family story of Pi, but his story of survival in a lifeboat after being shipwrecked. Now, what happens, due to some reasons, the family has to move to Canada, and so they are moving the zoo. That is, the zoo needs to be some of the animals in the zoo need to be transferred, as well as some of them need to be taken with them to Canada. And they just board a ship, and they board a Japanese ship, and they plan to go to Canada. Everything seems fine, but what happens one night, all of a sudden, a storm just breaks out, and the ship just sinks. And due to this, the boy Pi is shipwrecked on a boat, and he's left all alone. He's left all alone as a human being, but he has some animal companions. But these animals are all so unpredictable. The toughest of all these being a tiger whom he calls as Richard Parker. And we have four animals which are in the lifeboat with Pi when he is shipwrecked, and of those four he sees only two in the beginning, which are a zebra and a hyena. The hyena is depicted like the villain of the story, and I just love the portrayal of the hyena in this book. And apart from that, we also have an orangutan named Orange Juice and this Bengal tiger, who's Richard Parker. The book is really good, guys. Actually, there are only three animals in the lifeboat, but Pi, due to some reason, he just saves the tiger. He throws him a lifebuoy and brings the tiger into the lifeboat, and that starts the incredible journey of the life of Pi. It is such a good book. Talking about the characters in this book, as I said before, we have the family of Pi, who are like a major presence throughout the first 100 pages of the book, and every time something is said about the family, he just circles the family in a perfect way, how a normal atomic family would be, like a mother, father and the children together, and how they are brought up. The parenting in this book is excellent, if you ask me, and they trust the children, that's the main thing, and they let the originality of the child come out as properly as it can be. They don't force the children to do certain things which they are not liking to do, and as well they are not parents that let their children do whatever they want. They are strict at times when it needs to they need to be strict, and they are so liberal when it comes to times when they need to be liberal, and they bring up the boys in such a proper way. That parenting is really good. Apart from the human beings, the four main animals are the essence of the book, if you ask me. The hyena, his appearance in the book is for like 20 to 30 pages, and every time he comes up in a scene, that is totally terrifying, guys. I'm not even read villain stories that are that much terrifying, because animals are things which actually exist in the world, and the author has put out those animal emotions of how an animal would react to certain circumstances, and how a person caught with an animal in such a weird yet believable circumstance can be. That was really well done. And also how certain animals, like just an orangutan, I love the name of the orangutan actually. Her name was Orange Juice, and how she actually brings out her courage, how she displays her courage before her death. And despite the hyena being such a strong animal, even it is less than the tiger comparatively, because the tiger which we see here, Richard Parker, he's a 450-pound Bengal tiger. He's heavy, guys. He's strong. He's like the epic thing in this book, if you ask me. And he was portrayed in a proper way. All the animal characters, they stood out more than the human characters in this book. It was excellent. Now coming to the pacing of the book, just as I said before, we spent a lot of time just in the lifeboat itself. Actually, the first 100 pages of the book involve the family and what happens around them in Pondicherry. We get a lot of atmospheric things that are laid down by the author in order to make us believe that the story actually happened in Pondicherry, and he has done it in the best way, if you ask me. Starting from the food, the things that we see in South India, those things are like, they are like as such portrayed by him. Though these things happened in the 1970s, anyone who lives in Tamil Nadu right now, they can relate with the things that he speaks of. It is that good. And also this is the book which I've taken a lot of notes. You won't believe me, because I read this in a single sitting last night. Actually, I started it by like 8 or 9 o'clock, and I ended it by 2:30 in the morning. I didn't sleep at all. It was such a good book, and I read it in a single sitting. The character work was excellent. Usually I don't enjoy a single point of view in such a great way, but in this book, the entire book is just from a single point of view. We don't get any other points of view, because the things whom we see other than Pi as a human being are just animals, and it's not possible to portray the thoughts of the animals being a human being. He has displayed the thoughts of the animals, but not from their point of view, but from the point of view of Pi, what the animals might be thinking while they are around him. Those things are so excellently done by Yann Martel in this one. I'm sure that you will be liking this book, especially for the character work itself. Rather than any other thing, the story gels properly. It is unbelievable, but it is believable at the same time, because he puts out certain lines at the end of the book saying that when certain things are said separately in this world, everyone can believe them, but certain believable things, when put together, they are unbelievable to everyone. That I just liked that small slice of the story a lot, because just think, a ship being wrecked and a person escaping in a lifeboat, believable. Animals being transported in a ship, believable, and the ship sinks, believable. And a tiger, it also sinks in the sea, it's believable. But when all these things come together, it's unbelievable, right? Just think, how can a person survive on a boat with a hyena and a tiger and not having died at all? He is not even attacked by both the animals. That's the gist of the story. Okay, what all he makes, what are his survival instincts, what is the level of will that he has in order to survive, all those things are really really excellent. The pacing is slow, okay, it is damn slow for sure. The first 100 pages, as I said before, was about the family. The next 150 to 170 pages are totally taking place within this single lifeboat alone. You don't get any other place. You get like 2 to 20 to 30 pages in some other place, but it's not that great, okay. It seems like the lifeboat itself, but he has handled it in such a great way. A lifeboat is, it might just be the size of this room which I am in right now, and he has told the entire story taking place within the single lifeboat in the middle of an ocean. That was great. The pacing was slow in that because it needs to be slow. You cannot expect someone whose basic thing to do in such a situation is just to survive. You cannot expect his life to be excellent in any way. It's just slow. It might be boring at times because the life of him is boring, and it was perfectly portrayed by Yann Martel in this one. So my overall view of this book is that it was a great story told from a single point of view. If there had been 2 or 3 more points of view, especially that of the animals, it would have been awesome. I understand that it is really difficult to write from points of view which cannot be experienced by human beings, yet it would have been better if it had been done in that way. The story was excellent, the narration was like top notch if you ask me. The narration was better than the movie actually. How Irfan Khan narrates the story in Life of Pi, it is a step less than this one because the author has done such a great job in doing that. And also, if you're planning to take this book up, I'd highly suggest you to read it because it is such a time killer. It will not bore you at all, and you will not feel bad for having taken this book. How to say, you might feel not being able to read it continuously, but I'm sure that you will be intrigued to pick it up again and again because of the things that are happening in the book. It is not a fast book, but it will make you stay awake. It will make you pick it up again and again and read further pages. And that's all for today. I rated this 4 stars. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.